computer. Hey there, changemakers and animal lovers. Welcome to another wild and wonderful episode of Coffee with Convery. Today, we're diving into a conversation that's going to make your heart purr and your mind soar. I've got a true champion for our furry, feathered, and scaled friends joining us, and they're a varsity athlete and a climate change warrior and a visionary with a US patent pending. Put your hands or your paws together for the one and only Cogie Cogan. Welcome to the show, Cogie.
Hey Brian, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm super stoked to be here.
Me too. I'm really excited. As I was putting this together, I was like, this is going to be a fun episode. So let's go for it. So first we'll start with some rapid fire kind of questions. What do you think is your superpower?
Okay, so definitely like dribbling basketballs. I used to before I played Ultimate, played basketball. So I want to be a Harlem Globetrotter growing up. So I have some cool tricks up my sleeve.
Oh, wow. Okay. Globetrotters, I saw them back in the US. They have a lot of tips and tricks on the whole thing. So
Yep,
I'd love to
yep.
see you.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Um, Smells. It's an interesting scent, or sense, I should say. And so I often want to ask, like, what is your favorite smell?
Right. I would say the unique mix of flora that exists within mountainous regions. It's
Mm.
kind of, but being outside, as an environmentalist, it's being outside definitely.
And the smell
Mountains,
of
water.
nature with the mountain. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I
And
get
it
it.
has a distinct smell.
It sure does. Absolutely it does. Best compliment you've ever received.
When someone just says they like seeing me around, that's a good compliment. If
That's
I
a
make
great.
someone's day a little better, I'll take it.
That's great. That's a great compliment. How about like I said go-to snack, but or guilty pleasures. What do you love to snack on?
Other than a block of tofu straight up, any fruit of all kind,
See,
all fruit.
healthy indulgence. That's great. That's great. All right. Any particular
Yeah.
fruit or all fruit?
Kiwis.
Kiwis.
Kiwis, nectarines,
Hmm.
all fruit.
Okay. Okay. Great. You're the healthy one on the episode here. I usually get chocolate chip cookies and cake and all that stuff, although I did get a power bar today. Um, what's your favorite subject in school?
Anything animal ethics related.
I love that. And we're
Yep.
going to get into that because I really want to hear about that type of study and what you're doing. I think it's super interesting and not just interesting, impactful. So we'll talk about that. Um, Everyone starts somewhere. We all have a first job. What was your very first job?
My very first job was in grade 10 and I worked at the mall and I worked at a skate and clothing shops, like skateboarding and clothing. And I sold clothing for a few months.
And they sold skateboards too, or in the same place?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah, it was kind of like a skateboarding fashion
that's cool.
shop. I didn't skateboard at the time. Funny enough, it was like 2 years later when COVID hit, that was like my hobby.
Yeah,
But at the time I hadn't skateboarded before.
yeah.
So,
No,
so
that's awesome. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would you pick?
random. Definitely random.
Random. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that. Well, thank you for playing along with the rapid fire questions. Now I want to get into your amazing background and what you've been doing and sharing with the audience some ideas and insights of what they might think about doing. So you're majoring in animal ethics and sustainability leadership, right? Talk about a power combo. What's the most like mind-blowing fact you've learned about animals that you think everybody should know?
I have two mind-blowing facts, uh, both very different.
Okay.
So I think something that's very humbling is that there are a lot of species that live much longer than humans. So, for example, Jonathan, the giant tortoise, I believe lives on St. Helena Island, and is around 191 years old. So
Wow.
significantly older than humans, and I think that's very humbling. I believe Jonathan is the oldest known living land mammal. So it's a very interesting fact.
That's super cool. That's
Yes.
super cool.
Yeah. And the other one that I think is worth mentioning is in my program, we learn a lot about the interconnectedness of human and animal harm. So often when there's harm done to animals, it is also being done to humans. Take, for example, in the factory farming industry, when you have large corporations, people who are being hired are often immigrants or people of color, and the jobs aren't always the best. Sometimes they have better regulations than others, but um, that's one example. Or often when there are cases of cases against animals, companion animals in homes. Often that is linked to domestic abuse. So it's really important that we take animal
That makes
welfare
sense.
seriously for animals, but also because it's often very interconnected with human lives. So
It's super
yeah,
insightful, and I've heard those connections before, especially if a young kid kind of like picks on animals or, does abusive things, they may grow up to be like not a good person as well, right? Like that
yeah.
kind of
So
connection.
yeah. There's like warning signs there, right? Like how do we
Absolutely.
makes it easier to help humans as well.
And you're in your program, and remind the audience here at what school and how did you get into that program? I'm just curious. Like, of course, it attracted you from a passion, but
Absolutely. Yeah, so I went to Western. I'm originally from Manitoba. I thought, I'm going to go into business. I'm going to go to the business school at Western. And then while I was at Huron, they launched a brand new program, Animal Ethics and Sustainability Leadership. And at the
mm,
time, I was, working in climate, but I want to get more specific and do something because climate, there's so much you can do, right?
yeah,
Um, and protecting animals is, animal protection is very interconnected with climate action. And I decided I'm going to join this program, and since then I haven't looked back. It's been incredible. It just launched this year, and I'll
that's
be
cool.
graduating at the end of the year with the degree.
I love that. And big shout out to Huron. I'm a big fan of that school. They do some really amazing stuff there. They do.
Yeah, actually, today I started a brand new club, and we'll talk about that later, a brand new
Okay.
club. But we were recruiting for the club today, and we just got 60 new members for the club, the Huron Protection of Animal Welfare Society. And
Nice.
it's interdisciplinary. There are students from all different faculties joining the club, all different years. So,
It's
very proud of the students at Huron for stepping up and wanting to be a part of this.
it's so inspiring because we need so much more advocacy in the world than what we're seeing lately and some of the world things we live in. Speaking of the world, you've been a delegate at environmental conferences in Kenya, Canada, the US of A. If you could like maybe teleport world leaders to one place to make them understand the urgency of climate action, where would it be and why?
That's a great question, Brian. But yeah, I've been
I was trying
lucky
to get
enough to get
clever with these questions.
these questions are like so good. I
Oh,
was like reading
thanks.
these are amazing. Um, yeah, and most of them I have like a couple answers for. And the first
Sure.
one, where I teleport people to is Squamish, BC, at the Cheakamus Center, which is it's a environmental center that has like an indigenous led component.
Okay.
It's sort of out in nature, and I believe world leaders have attended conferences there before. I was actually there back in March for a Canadian youth environmental conference,
Okay.
and it was absolutely incredible to be surrounded by mountains and water and the forest. Really just puts things into perspective. Like this is so important. We can't lose it. But also, when it comes to world leaders and really just anyone, I would say go outside, go to a place that is, meaningful to you. If you have a local park nearby or, you go out to a lake somewhere, um, all you have to do is go into, your own backyard and find a spot that's meaningful and in nature. And I think it puts into perspective, like, climate change is urgent. And in order
Mhm.
to protect the spaces that we hold so close to our heart, we need to, take action and take it seriously.
100%. 100%. Thank you for sharing that. I'm now gonna Google that and look it up and see what, because you can get the visuals of stuff online now, of course. Maybe I'll get there physically one day.
It's gorgeous. It was
Yeah.
absolutely breathtaking.
Well, I can only imagine. Okay, this blew me away when I was researching you for this a little bit deeper. I know you're the brains behind a patent pending carbon emissions reduction product, if I got it right. Without giving away any trade secrets, can you give us a teaser of how it works, its magic, or some ideas of what the insights are?
Yeah. To be honest, I was the business analyst on the team, so I got to work with three other students who were like
Okay.
very tech savvy. Three students actually. I think one went to U of T, one other one went to Western, and one was at U Waterloo.
Okay.
They're incredible, but yeah, it's essentially, yeah, it uses like technology to calculate emissions of farms, but then not only calculate emissions, because if you know the emissions, what's the next step? What are things that we can do to decrease the emissions? What are, actionable things that can actually make a difference rather than just point out the problem? What are solutions? So,
What are the
yeah.
solutions? Awesome. Well, we're gonna have to keep our eyes peeled and our ears tuned in to see when that all comes about. I will be watching, and hopefully you'll let me know when it's all public.
Yeah, yeah, it's in the process, so I'm
That's
pretty
awesome.
excited about it.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's pretty cool.
Thanks,
Um,
Ryan.
as a member of the Pro Veg International Youth Board, what's your go-to argument to convince a diehard meat lover to try plant-based options?
Oh goodness. I feel like I've tried a lot of things, but because my family sort of split, and I'm vegan, my sister's vegetarian, my mom's kind of, pescatarian maybe, and then my brother and my dad, they both eat meat, but they'll always eat plant food as long as whatever's
Mhm.
being cooked they'll eat essentially, but um
Good variety there at home table then.
yeah. Yeah. I would say you're already eating plant-based food. Do you like French fries? I
Yeah,
mean, there you go. It's plant-based food right there.
there you
I
go.
mean, if you eat vegetables, plant-based food, there's so many incredible. It's never been easier to be plant-based than it is now. There are so many, innovations out there where there's, plant-based cheese and plant-based meats, and some of them are, there's a whole variety, whole different types of brands. And there are millions of people right now who don't eat meat and have never, and their ancestors didn't. We look at places in, Asia. I just came back from a month in India. I'm
Okay.
half Indian, and in India they'll use dairy, but a lot of the people in India don't eat meat. So it's not just a few people; it's whole entire cultures. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird at that. And like I gave up meat quite a few years ago now. And I don't miss it with all the other things that you can have. I'm probably more on the pescatarian side. Like I do love fish, so that's
Mhm.
the one thing I will do. But like honestly, when you go to the market and you can see even in like all markets now, so many variety of plant-based foods, it's incredible. And I've even made some of these plant-based burgers and didn't tell my parents, and they're like, they didn't know the difference. It's like,
Exactly. And like if you like the texture, I mean, these plant-based burgers are very similar.
yeah,
I mean, tofu has a similar texture. Maybe seitan is one that we don't
yep,
have as much of in North America, but super high in protein, delicious. Tempeh. There's a
yeah,
whole variety.
yeah. It's
Yeah, try
I
Meatless
love that.
Mondays.
Huh?
Yeah, try Meatless Mondays. That's my recommendation to
There you
people.
go. Hey, there you
Uh,
go. Meatless Mondays from this podcast. Let's go. Um, you founded two student clubs, Western Environmental Business and Huron Protection of Animal Welfare Society.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if this question I kind of was like playing around with, but like if it was these clubs were like superheroes, what would their powers be?
Yeah, that's I read that. This question
You're
is
probably like,
hilarious.
huh? I was trying to make something like,
You're making me think. You're like,
okay,
you're the philosophy sort of
yeah.
Cogie.
Or
Like,
maybe what's
how do
the
we?
superpower of the club? These clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think both of these clubs in ways resemble superheroes in general because when we look at superheroes, often they're, trying to fight corruption and inequality, and both of these clubs sort of have that, their mission of trying
Right.
to uplift people and animals. So I would say they both align with, that superhero vibe. Yeah, I so it was so funny. I was like, wow, what's a superpower? And I came up with like shape shifting. I think these clubs
Hmm.
have the ability to sort of shape shift. Let's say, animal protection looks like many things, and we're not just a club that is looking at, policy change, for example. We look at policy, we can look at the business side of things. How do you create change through that method? How do you create social change? How do you create change in like social consciousness among students and
Yeah.
amongst like, the average person? There's so much that you can do for animals and ways in which you can go about doing that. And that's what I love about the clubs that I started is that they're very interdisciplinary. Web, Western environmental business is not just for business students. And, the
Mhm.
animal club is not just for animal ethics students, it's for anyone, because anyone, regardless of faculty, can make a change, whether it's in their personal lives or in their, professional lives after university.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, congratulations on founding them and putting them together and giving people the opportunity to get involved in that. That's awesome. Um, so you've done marketing for a whole bunch of startups. Have you thought about maybe creating your own startup? And if you would, based on the ultimate passion project, what would your startup be? Or are you thinking in that line of
Yeah.
future? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. I'm actually one of my courses is a starting your business course, and hopefully, I'll get some ideas onto paper soon. But as my stretch goal, and I'm not at this
Yeah.
point yet, I would love to be involved in the plant-based business sector. So looking at alternative meats. There's talks about lab-grown meat now that could be potentially part of my
Yeah.
trajectory, but there's one Huron alumni who started like a plant-based cheese company that's completely taken off and is in like stores all across North America. And I think that's incredibly inspiring. So if I could do something along those lines in a way that is creating massive change for animals.
Awesome. Well, when you get established, let me know. I'll come work for you.
Amazing. We're gonna need lots of smart, passionate people. So.
That's right. That's right. Don't forget me when you're smart and famous. Well, you're already smart, but famous. Um, as I love varsity athletics, as we talked about sports earlier, as we're getting on here, so much skills, so much dedication comes from being in a varsity athlete. And I know you're on the Western's Ultimate Frisbee team. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that all came about and how that's working?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm right in the season right now, so we're training, 3 hours a day right now. It's a lot, but I've been playing since I was about 9 years old. I had joined my school ultimate team, ended up choosing basketball over ultimate, had some injuries down the road, decided ultimate was better for my
Yeah.
injuries, and then came back to it, late in high school. And then, ended up playing on the varsity team, and I've been on it for 5 years. It's been absolutely incredible. I've gotten the chance to, attend national team tryouts a couple years ago and hopefully this upcoming October. But I think, and it's funny, there's studies that have come out on this, and often people are like, well, how do you balance it all? You're doing so much
Yeah.
between school and sports, but
And
actually I find that
clubs.
in clubs, right? But actually, I find when I have, ultimate built into my schedule, it kind of forces me to like, um, put other things into my schedule and make sure I'm getting things done earlier in the day so that when practice comes around and we're done in the evening, I didn't procrastinate on my work. I'm getting it done early. I'm being efficient. My teammates are holding me accountable. And I
Right.
absolutely love it. It's a chance for me to get outside,
I
throw,
was just gonna ask that because I'm curious more about this sport too. Like in the winter months, do you do it inside or do you just do it outside?
Yeah,
Or...
there's like an indoor season that's 4-on-4. Regular ultimate is seven on
Okay,
seven. So,
seven on
but we
seven.
only go till mid-October, and we do the 7-on-7 outside. And it's competitive and fun. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
And do you think it'll be in the Olympics one day or?
Ultimate, funny enough, is a self-officiated sport, so it creates some problems in terms of like if it's going to be in the Olympics or not.
Okay.
um, and whether it's going to be single gender versus like mixed gender,
Yep.
because it's different ways. The women's side, like there's the women's team and the men's team, and then there's like co-ed teams. I would love for it to be in the Olympics. It's so spirited. There's no referees, so you have to like uphold spirit of the game and talk
Yeah.
to the other team when there's issues. So
I
I
say I
need
say that's cool. Like I mean the fact that breakdancing was in the Olympics this year, I was like,
right.
why it could
Ray
right?
gun, hell yeah, that was
Exactly.
amazing. I was
Exactly.
feeling that.
No, I I was just curious because it's an interesting, and I think like I'm not sure that many people know the sport or even understand it. So I was like, I
My
think it's
it's one of those sports you can pick up any point in life. Like if you're looking to make friends, you want to like go find your local ultimate team, I would
yeah,
recommend.
super cool. That's awesome. Um, your journey in advocacy for animals and the environment is truly inspiring. As I was going through just preparing for this podcast. There's so much you are doing that you're sharing now as well. But for our listeners who are passionate about making that difference, I know so many people get stuck in their own heads about how do I start? What's one simple action I can take today, maybe start some sort of change maker kind of focus. Maybe it is animal welfare, animal or environmental protection, or one other. But what is your advice to someone who's kind of listening to this and thinking, either they have an idea and they want to get involved in something, or these are the ideas that they want to get involved in? How do you get started?
Totally. Well, the first thing I'll say is if you're in high school and listening to this and considering animal ethics, come to Huron. Do the animal ethics major. It's an incredible program. I'm absolutely loving it. Um, from a personal perspective, like I said, try to reduce, your meat consumption. Maybe,
Hmm.
meatless Mondays is a great way to start. Go watch some documentaries if you wanna. I have many recommendations, Seaspiracy, Cowspiracy on Netflix were some of the big ones for me. If you want to learn a little bit more about the space, and there's a whole bunch of other documentaries, but I would also say you don't, even if you want to go into sciences, or you want to go into business, or you want to go into media, it doesn't matter what you are interested in studying, or what path you decide to take. You can use your skills, whatever those may be, to make change for animals in your personal life, in your professional life. You can make change, absolutely. It's everyone, essentially, we need everyone on board to do something. So,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree like wholeheartedly. I mean, if it wasn't for my pets in my life, I don't know where I would be.
exactly. Yeah,
They're family members. And to your point about the turtle that lives long, I wish my cat here would live a lot longer. He's doing well, but I would love for him to be
they are family
living.
members.
They are. They are. Um,
Absolutely.
This has been super insightful and really cool and interesting conversation. Is there any, as you think about the audience and people thinking about some of the things you've talked about, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share, either about yourself or about what you're doing or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I would just say, if you're hearing what I'm saying and you want to reach out, please feel free to, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk about animal ethics opportunities for anyone. If you're in school, if you're not in school, if you're in high school, yeah, come reach out. And I would say, um, go spend a day volunteering at a local animal sanctuary or something. I think that's a way to really put things into perspective and, understand the lives of some of the animals that I'm trying to protect and that a lot of people are trying to protect. So yeah, go do that. They always are looking for volunteers, and that's what I gotta say. Thanks so much for
Awesome.
having me.
No, this is so cool. Like, and I feel like we're gonna have to do part two when the patent that comes out and
Brian.
whatever else
Talk
goes
more.
on in your world. Because I think, first of all, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're really making a huge impact and inspiring to hear you talk through it today and share your story to date. I think I always find this podcast interesting because even though I think I know everyone that's on it, I learn something new as I go, and it's just such a great time to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing. Congratulations.
Thanks so much, Brian. Yeah, and thanks for giving me the chance to talk about some of the work I'm passionate about, because I appreciate it, the animals appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our audience, if you liked what you heard today, don't be shy to reach out to Cogie. Like you said, they said that you can find them on LinkedIn, right? Or also, if you like this podcast, you can share it with your network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Coffee with Convery is also on Instagram. That's where I post all the episodes, so you can find that as well. And this is Coffee with Convery. So this is a show where success isn't always about climbing the corporate ladder. Sometimes it's about building your own jungle gym. So for everyone out there, have a great day and we'll see you soon. Thank you.